Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Consecrated Life Project, where we talk about embracing your mission, living your purpose with faith and confidence, and learning to let God lead your life. Today, we have an awesome guest. His name is Layne Gneiting, and he is an adventure coach. And I'm really excited for you to hear from him and his story of consecration and what it is that got him to the point where he is and where he's at on his journey of consecration, how God's kind of guided him along the way. So, welcome, Layne.
Livia, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Yes, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Can you give us really quick, just tell us about you. Give us like a 2 minutes about you. Where are you from? What does your life look like at this moment? And what are you passionate about?
Sure. I grew up in the rural community of Grant, Idaho, right between Rigby and Idaho Falls. Had an idyllic childhood, scampering out among the fields. And I spent most of my time down in the bowels of my parents' basement, immersed in stories. And I wanted those stories. So, read about jungles of Africa and India and Japan. And I thought that this little Idaho hayseed would never be able to go to those places, would never have the chance to experience those stories. And I'm happy to say that's wrong.
Oh, that's awesome. What does your life look like now?
Right now, it looks like I'm married with 8 kids. We've got 2 left at home. I just came back from taking one of my sons over to Japan on a cycling adventure.
I saw some of the pictures. That looked really cool. And then what you're passionate about?
Oh,
you already told us, but we
adventure.
can
Adventure done the right way. Not a trip, not a vacation, something that promotes deep growth, where you immerse yourself in the journey and truly enact a hero's journey within your own life.
I love it. I feel so happy. Okay, can you talk to us about what was the point when you were 100% committed to following your path? Not worried about what anybody else thought or what society told you, or this is the pathway to success. When did you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm going to follow what I know is right for me?
So I really wish, Livia, that I could say I did it earlier. And I love the question. It's kind of painful though. It's like peeling away a scab. But it was age 39. Age 39. So here's what happened, really. All my life, I'd lived what I thought I was supposed to do, the social scripts that are handed down and the way you interpret them. But Livia, I had an awakening moment where a vision was like dropped out of the sky for me. And in this vision, I was standing in a world of gray, staring at a world of vibrant color. And between us stretched this giant iron fence, eternally, both directions, floor to sky. And there was a gate slowly creaking shut. And I just knew that if I didn't squeak through before it clanged shut, that it would bind, lock, chains would wrap around and fuse it shut. And I would never get through, and I'd be standing there forever in this world of gray. So when you're faced with that, suddenly it ramps you up and you say, you know what, to heck with all of the fears and the doubts and everything. I've got to figure this out. How am I going to make this happen? And for 10 years close, I'd nursed a dream of cycling across America. But how do you do that when you're married, 7 kids, job, mortgage, student debt, job? Like, how do you do that? You don't. Or at least in my mind, you didn't. You shelved that into the world of someday or retirement. And of course, someday really means never. So faced with this ironclad death date, and there's like a different story around that. But Livia, I knew that if I didn't do it by age 40, I wouldn't do it.
So that was at age 39 that
Age
this
39,
decision happened.
and then age 40, I did it.
Yeah. So in that, you saw that and you're like, okay, this is my dream. This was the shutting, was that dream of cycling, is what you were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did you do then? Did you quit your job and go cycling across America? Did you take a 2-week hiatus or a month or however long it takes to cycle across America?
Yeah, it took three months, 4,300 miles. And I mean, here's the thing, Livia. Once you commit, then all of the heaven and the universe start to move on your behalf. But the problem is too few of us totally commit. And I was committed because I knew that if I didn't do it by 40, it was not going to happen. So I went to a buddy of mine, said, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but I've got to do it. And he said, and here's part of it. So I'm going to back off just a minute. There in the hero's journey, there are always guides and signs already placed on your path. It's just that our eyes are blinded and we're not seeing them. Well, this was one of them. I went to my friend and said, I've got to do it. I have no idea how. And he said, take your family. Ha! Yeah, right. Like I've got 2 teenage girls. I've got a 2-year-old. They don't want to go bike across America. He said, well, they don't have to. Just go get a motorhome and take him with you. Ha! Yeah. Like maybe you have $100,000 just, lying around in your bank account. I don't. And he looked at me, with kind of this chagrin and a wry smile and said, Layne, you don't get it. We live in Mesa. It's a mecca for motorhomes. I can go down to the auction tomorrow, pick up one for $4,000, put 2 into it. There's your home for the summer. And Livia, that blew me away. Like he had disrupted my view of the world. The reality that I lived in was that it was impossible to get an RV. Like that was so far-fetched an idea, I never even considered it. But he had a different reality. And so by opening a window, he showed me something that was possible. And I got to tell you, Livia, I went home and I was like tingling. I was so giddy. I went to my bedroom, thought, how am I going to pitch this to the family? And formulated the idea, sat them all down, pitched it. The suckers said yes. And suckers, I mean, I thought of it like I had to sucker them into it. And really, they were on board. They were, yeah, let's do it. And so 2009, we bundled up into the old motorhome, drove to the western tip of Washington, and crawled all the way to Maine along the northern tier of the US, them in the motorhome, me on the bike, and it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away how tough, how grueling, and how incredibly extraordinary it was.
That just makes my heart happy just listening. Like, so we did something similar last August, and well, not on a bike for sure, but I took my 5 kids in my minivan and we drove all the way to New York and back and did a church history tour. And we went all the way up and we were gone for 2 weeks. And it was one of those things where it was like, how in the world is this going to happen? I have no clue. And it was like that, it was that commitment of I'm doing this no matter what, and just trusting God that it would work. And I don't think like all the funding and everything didn't come through till like 3 days before we left. And like we were on the road and I'm still on the like trying to figure stuff out, and it just like God provides. when you have that, and as you were talking, I thought of that where there is no vision, the people perish.
Uh-huh.
And you like had the vision of what you wanted, but you didn't have the vision of how it would work. And so I feel like that was maybe the gap you had between this is what I want to do this bike trek, but at the same time you were like money, finances, kids, motorhome, like how do I, like you couldn't, it was almost like that fog between you and your vision, like it wasn't clear. And when your friend said that, it was like the whole cloud just disappeared and you're like, wait, and you could hold to that possibility and expand what was possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
And there's one tidbit that I think is apropos to our conversation, Livia.
Yeah.
And that is I had set a date by when I needed to have funds in order to go. And that date came and the funds weren't in. And I remember pleading with God saying, well, maybe I should delay it a year. You know, that's really enticing, alluring to do. Hey, let's put it off and I'll put everything in place. And I remember the answer I got was, well, Layne, it's your choice. You can either proceed now or you can wait. It's up to you. And I think too often we try to wait until God tells us what to do stuff. And that taught me a great lesson that he's like, hey, it's your choice. Do you want to go now or not? And I really wanted to go then. Okay, let's go. And the analogy I use often when I talk to people, Livia, is that often it's like we're in the ship in the harbor and we say, God, tell me where you want me to go and I'll set the sail. And every time I think of that, it's like I hear this whisper on the wind that says, that's not quite how I work. You tell me where you want to go. You set the sail. I'll send the wind.
I love that. You set the sail, I'll send the wind. Totally writing that down. You talk, I'm writing. Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Because I've definitely found that that's the case, that he wants us to choose. And he's like, if you have a righteous desire, he'll help you accomplish it. And if it's something that like will totally throw your life off track, you can pray, you know, if this is best, like help me do this. If not, change my direction. Because I know when I started the Consecrated Life Project and all this stuff, like 12 years ago or something, I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? And I was seeking for that. And I would take every little breadcrumb and I would like focus on that. I'm like, okay, I'm holding to this. This is what I know so far. And then I just get to take the step. Like, I don't always know why. It's just like, okay, I'm going to do this thing now. Help me reach the right person. Help me share the right thing. Whatever that gets to look like. And that he helps along the way. And sometimes it's a big thing where he's like, okay, no, this is where you need to go. This is what you need to do. But lots of times it's like, what do you want to do? And then I'll help you do it.
Do you have an example?
Hmm.
I would love to hear about a breadcrumb.
Breadcrumb? Well, my entire website, learnlivefly.com, I was like, what do you want me to do? I don't know. And so the two words that came to me were creative sanctuary. And I was like, cool. I don't know what that means. So I wrote it on, I was in scrapbooking season of homeschooling children. So I had this little thing and I made a little card and I wrote creative sanctuary and I stuck it on my fridge. Like I got 5 little kids, babies on my hips, walking up and down every day, running back and forth. And like, I go to the fridge 20 times a day at least, right? To help take care of all these kids. And so I just had it and I would see it. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but here we go. And then the vision kind of opened and I could see that it's a 20-acre place that will be a creative sanctuary with little houses and cottages where people can come write their books and design their courses or connect with their spouse or whatever they need, somewhere they can come where they're safe to create whatever it is in their heart, to figure that out without all the distractions of the world, to have this peace. And I was like, okay, I got the 20-year vision. It's like way out here. Now what? Like, where does that go for now? Well, I've got these babies on me. I know that's not something that's happening now, and I have to grow into the person who can hold that vision. So where do I go? And then it came to me.
Wait. What you just said right there is money. Like that is gold. Whoever's watching, I hope that you just wrote down what Livia said, because that right there is the point of the journey, to grow into the person who can accomplish it. Otherwise, why dream? The dreams are always slightly or quite a bit out of reach. Anyway, sorry.
No,
Continue.
that's true.
This is
And I
beautiful.
found that is the case, that God says, "Kay, like here's this vision," and you see it and you're like, "Oh, it's too big. I can't do that. I'm not capable." Or even, if you get a calling in church and you're like, "I'm the Relief Society president." Oh no, I'm freaking out. I've talked to several friends in the last month that's been their case, and they're like, "No." I'm like, "No, your job is to grow into it. Like you're all you're here to do is love. You just love people like Jesus did. You show up for the one, and he magnifies and multiplies and makes it enough and plenty and more than enough to do whatever you need." So it's as we choose to hold the vision, even if we can't see how.
Yes.
Or I've heard it seen as like a target. You have the target and you put your arrow in the target and you're attached to the other side of the string. Doesn't matter how many trees and mountains that string goes through and how many curves it takes, but if you stay anchored to the vision, then God will guide you to get to what it is that you're seeking. Anyways, so short version, Creative Sanctuary turned it from a 20-acre thing to I get to create it in my heart and in my home, where people feel safe to be themselves 100% when they're in my presence and they feel that safety. And then I get to teach other people how to create that within their lives so that they can live their consecrated life and whatever God calls them to do.
Way to go, Livia.
That's the short version of it. But this is about your story, so we're going to go back to your question.
No, it's a conversation.
It is. But this is how you know, guys, when you get in a conversation, when you have another coach in your space and we're both like trying to put it back on the other person to talk about their story more than your own. Because I know that Layne has a lot of goodness to share, but he also loves to hear about your story too. So amidst this, what opposition and resistance have you faced and how do you get through it? And share a story with us. Just whichever one comes to mind. I'm sure you have a lot.
Well, I think the biggest obstacle is doubt and fear. And there was one time when I was doing, studying the Book of Mormon, and it said the fiery darts of the adversary. Now the darts attack. And let's see, there was one other thing with it. I can't remember, but it basically comes down to doubt and fear. I learned a lot about what I feared when oh my gosh, there's such a story. Livia, after doing the coast to coast, I wondered and pleaded with God, what's next? What's next? What's next? And the answer that kept reverberating back was, you need to write. I'm like, well, I'm too scared to. Okay, I'm not going to. And so I refused. It just seemed too big to me. So he said, fine, if that's the way you're going to be, here, let me guide you through a process. And I went through the process. And at the end of it, what was left was cycle every country in the world and make my living through that. Now that's pretty daunting. You think about every country in the world. You think about North Korea. You think about Russia. You think about islands scattered in the sea, like all of the money that it's going to take and the time and effort to go visit those. Like that's not a 20-year thing. That's like a lifetime endeavor. But as I looked at that, going, what the heck? It's like this voice behind me started whispering with a finger over my shoulder, pointing at what I'd written, saying, there it is, Layne, get on it. So the first one I did was a 2-month solo trek from Portugal to Rome. All alone. And I thought, yeah, I want to know how to help people with what they fear. And what I didn't realize is that the heavens said, okay, you want to know what people fear? Great. Because I'm going to bubble up everything that you don't realize you fear. And it's going to come up and stare you straight in the face. And there were a lot of times, like if I were really to imagine it, I'd start breaking down and crying. But to your point, I can't even remember your question. What was your question?
It was, what opposition or resistance have you faced and how did you get through it?
Okay. There was one special experience that rises prominently. I was in Spain, southern Spain, cycling up the mountains, and it was 2 days of just grinding up the climbs, and they never ended. I'm like, what the heck? And when you're in physical anguish like that, then your brain starts going haywire. And it's like it was standing there with a club beating me again and again, saying, look at you. You're here doing this frivolous thing. You could be home with your kids. You could be doing homework, throwing the football. And so it just beat me up. I got to the top and I stayed with a family there. Called my wife and said, this was the dumbest thing I've ever done. I'm packing it up. I'm going home. And two things happened. First, my beloved Gayleen said, Layne, you're not coming home. Even if you don't do any other cycling trek, you've got to finish this. I know you. If you don't finish this, you'll never forgive yourself. You've got to carry it through to the end. Now, that's pretty nice when you've got somebody who has your back and encourages you. You know, the wind beneath your wings. Second thing.
7 kids, right? She was at home with 7 kids and supporting you, or
Yeah.
8 by that point.
Well, yeah, but that one had passed away. Okay. So 7 living.
Home with 7. Home with 7. Yeah. What a great woman.
Yeah, she really is remarkable. And I get a lot of flack. There are a lot of people that don't understand why we do things the way they do. She does not have wanderlust. I do. She knows that. And so she's happy to send me. Maybe she just wants to get rid of me, but she sends me away. And there are a lot of people that have a lot of judgment around our chosen life and the way we do it.
But I love the example that you are of what does it look like to live your consecrated life, to say, this is where my heart and my soul, this is where God's calling me, this is where I know I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And she sees that in you. So she can say, you know, my life doesn't look like everybody else's. And no, he doesn't come home at 5 o'clock every day. He might be home for 3 months and then he's gone for 2, you know, like whatever that looks like for you, to just honor that this is your path and your journey and it's sacred. I just think it's the path of sanctification is, can I choose what I know is right for me and my family, even though the whole world thinks I'm crazy? But it is really, it's a sanctification journey and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Anyway, I wanted to tell you the second thing. The guy I stayed with is one of the best men on the planet. He was so loving, so accepting. They have strangers in their home just about every week. But he said, look, you're tired. I can tell you're kind of worn. You need some refreshing. Stay an extra day. Stay 2 extra days if you need to. The home's yours. And that one of the ripple effects has been that now in our home, we have lots of strangers in our home. And when our kids have friends, we arrest them at the door and say, we got one rule. When you're here, you're home. You're not a guest in our home, you're home. If you want to kick off shoes, kick them off. If you're hungry, you don't need to ask. Go in the fridge, go in the pantry. It's yours. And that's been nice. Thanks to Danny Galvez and his family and their influence.
That's awesome. And I love how people show up to support you. Like, did you know this guy before? Did you have a plan to stay at his house, or you just went and you found a guy in town and you're like, hey, can I stay with you? Like, how does that work?
Well, I found that there are two resources, and little plug, like you don't just go blind, you look at the resources that you have around you and use them. They're there for a reason. Two of them are, there's a cycling site called Warm Showers. It's kind of like Facebook. You have your profile, and as people stay with you, they give you a review and you give them reviews. So there's there's like a bedrock of support that
a network of people who are there for you.
Yeah, and you can, you can go through and see, okay, I trust this person, other people trust them. And then another one is called couch surfing. And they're more widely popular in Europe than they are here. But in it, you reach out to people and you say, hey, I'm coming through on this day. You've got a couch or a bedroom or a yard where I can stay in. Is that available? Can I stay with you? So I'd reached out to Danny Galvez just like maybe 2 days prior. And after a day, he responded, yeah, you can stay with us. And so that's how that happened. And since then, Olivia, here's the crazy thing. I think we get socialized by media into believing that people have a gun in one hand and a knife in the other, and they're going to stab you or shoot you. And what I've found doing the adventures the way we do it is that people are standing there with an ice cream and a loaf of bread. And 6 times now, people have given me the key to their homes.
Wow. That's trust. It's beautiful. And God's good and he provides. I wish I knew what it was called. I think it was like called the Mormon Connection or something. It's a bunch of college kids. They did a short film video and they basically backpacked across the world. And they just said, we're going to see what the connection looks like, this worldwide connection of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and how welcome they are. And so they would just go from place to place and they would find members of the church who would let them stay with them and they would experience life there and then they'd go to the next place. And they did this whole video, like documentary of their journey.
Oh, that's really pretty cool.
It was cool to watch it. Very cool.
And I love that. That's beautiful. What I've found is that it's really easy to get complacent and think that people in my community, they've got my back. But most of the people who I've stayed with or who have stayed here, not members of the church, they're just that you discover that all across the world, it doesn't matter what culture they're from, whether they're city or country, people are good. Like we just got back from Japan and the guy, I reached out to him. He said, yeah, I'm going to be gone on my own cycling trek. And there's a couple of German guys who are staying at my place before you. So I'm arranging for them to get you the key so that you and your son can stay. Like just incredible, and when we stayed with him at the end of our trek, he goes, yeah, I don't know why this isn't normal. Like everybody should live this way.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I definitely agree. I just mentioned in the Mormon connection because that was the one that came to my mind, but definitely that there's good people everywhere. And if we're open, and you expect to find good, you're going to find it.
Oh yeah.
You'll totally find it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any moments on your journey where you were going this direction and then God said change course? I feel like maybe your dream was that moment. Do you have another one?
Yeah, there was one just happened. I told you we just got back from Japan, and the I had planned a pretty aggressive route, and my 22-year-old return missionary son joined me. Day 2, he wrecked, and we went to the hospital. Can't tell if he broke his elbow or just bruised it or whatever, but he couldn't bike. And so the rest of our journey had to be not on the bike. Here it is, a cycling trek. Like that's the whole premise behind the coaching program, is that you challenge yourself physically. You come to some really stark awakening moments as you climb up the hill and you're tired and frustrated and just wish, it would end. And suddenly that got thrown to the wind. And what we got was, I think, even better. Like we had, our route didn't include going to church along the way, and 2 to 3 days before leaving, I got an impression that you really ought to look in this one area, see what church buildings there are and when they meet. And so I had that down. And so we ended up taking a train, staying the night, going to church, and 2 of the most amazing experiences of that entire journey happened because we went to church. Right afterwards, a guy took 4 hours, basically gave us the VIP tour of the Shinto shrine and all its symbolism and its connection with Moses and the temples of ancient, like really amazing. And then another guy the next day took us to one of the Japanese hot baths, like rich cultural experiences we wouldn't have been able to get any other way.
It sounds like your vision happened even if it didn't happen on a cycle, because he was physically challenged, I'm sure, having this broken arm and being like, hey, I just let my dad down, we're supposed to do this cycling thing. Mm-hmm. And then the pain and still adventuring even if it wasn't the way you thought.
Yeah.
And I love how the tender mercies show up and how God's there in all the details, and he's like, okay, it didn't happen how you thought it was going to, but watch how much better it can get.
Yeah, and it's that same thing we mentioned earlier, that the vision, the scene that I see in my head is like there's a forest with a path going through it, and there are little gems, rubies, emeralds, diamonds, and they're just tucked away under a bit of moss or in a shrub or underneath a rock. And most of us do 2 things. We don't realize somebody placed them there well in advance of our finding the trail. And 2, they're there, but our eyes are shut. We need to remove the scales to be able to see them. And that's why we journey, because that teaches us to open our eyes, get off of autopilot, get out of the ruts, and start to see things that have already existed, but we've been blind.
Definitely. And I love how that can even go into everyday life. Like whenever we feel like we're downtrodden or things aren't going our way, if we choose, say, God, help me have eyes to see, ears to hear, a heart that knows and understands, then we can see the little nuggets and the little gems that are all around us. And just trusting that if something goes off and it goes sideways and you feel like it's not working, that you can say, okay, where's the good in here? Where's the gift? And you can find the gift even in the hard situations. Mm-hmm. And I know that mindset and the way that I look at the world has been a huge blessing through all of the hard the hard moments, to
I'm
know
sure.
that God's got your back and you can always, always find the good.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell my kids, I'm like, some days you wake up and you're like, I'm on it. I have all these ideas and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And it's so good and so exciting. And you just want to hop out of bed and do it. And some days you're like, I don't want to get up. And, some days your prayer is, thank you, God, for grace. Thank you that, I can support my body and rest. Or in the case of your son's hurt arm, I'm sure he's still healing from that. And being able to be like, thank you for grace. Thank you that God is here. Thank you that I can learn while I'm here. The Consecrated Life Project actually came from the day when I broke my foot. I was sitting there laying in bed and I couldn't take care of my kids. And it was born while I was in that bed recovering, because I had to slow down enough to hear what he was trying to tell me, because I was so busy going in all the different directions. So looking at that, I'm like, that was a gift. A broken ankle was a gift, because it got me still and pondering and receiving what he needed 12 years ago. That was, or more than that, I don't know how long ago. Anyways, a long time ago, for what we get to do today. And it's beautiful, the seeds along the way.
That is beautiful.
Okay, share with us a time that it might look like you failed to the world, and what did you learn from it?
Well, I think there are many. I think a lot of people look at my life. So I'll say I am not making money hand over fist. Like a lot of these things, I have had to scrap and scrape and make hard choices. And because of that, like we've been in dire straits in the past. And I know that one guy who I dearly love, but he basically called me out on the dreams, saying, look, life is duty, it's not dreams. And that hurts. And I can tell you, even before going on the coast to coast, I mentioned it to some dear friends, and my friend raked me over the coals. She said, are you kidding me? Like, you would go off on a pleasure jaunt across the nation, leave your family at home? You're not a man in my book. And so I shelved the dream because I wanted to be a man. And if that was the definition of being a man, I had to sacrifice my dream. That's how I felt at the time. And then going back to what we said earlier, once you have a solid ironclad date, everything changes. If you know you've got to do it, like if you knew that you were going to die next year, next March, if you knew that, you would reshape your life to do things that you've been delaying. And the problem is, we don't create that. We don't create the urgency around doing things. We always, slip into a mode of procrastination.
That's powerful. And I definitely, like, I've had those days where it was like, this is my one day, I'm finding my house today. And people are like, how do you know? I'm like, because today's the day I have to find it. Like, it's the one day I have to look. So we're finding our house today. And it's happened, or just the clarity of what is it that I want and when. But it's been interesting because there's some goals where I'm like, okay, this is something like I know for sure. Like our trip, we're like, this is the day, this is we're going. Our house, this is the day, this is we're going. And there's different things where it's like, okay, do I have a date on this? And I'll like try to set a date on it, but I feel like I'm not supposed to yet. Like something is in the works. God's working on something, aligning all these pieces that need to come together for this dream to be what I want it to be. And so he's like, nope, just keep going one step at a time. And so some dreams are day by day, step by step. What do I do today? And some of them are for certain, this is the thing. And now what do I do day to day to get there? And so it's interesting. And I feel like the greatest thing we can do is get our lives fully aligned, where we are listening and understanding the Spirit and how he speaks to us, so that as we're thinking and pondering on these things, is it in Alma? Somewhere in the scriptures. And they talk about how this prophet had the power to move mountains and to do all these things. And God could give him that power because he knew he wouldn't ask amiss. Because he knew that he was aligned with God. So the only thing he would ask for is the thing that God had for him already. And that many times, our gifts and our blessings and the things are contingent upon us asking. So I believe that the dreams in our heart are those divine desires that were planted there by God. Because I can look at other people and I'm like, okay, somebody like the guy who wants to go to space, is that Elon Musk? Is he go to
Elon
space?
Musk.
Yeah. Anyways, he really wants to go to space. Nowhere in my heart does any cell in my body care a lick about going to space. And so it's like, that wasn't my dream, but that's his dream. And as he goes towards it, he can do that. Your dream was to bike all the way across. And as you hold to that dream, God gives you what you need for your dream. And sometimes he gives you dreams that weren't yours to start with. Like, nowhere in my world did I ever come up with the Consecrated Life Project on my own. It was like given to me. But then it expands, and then I get more and more excited the more that I hear about all the things that I could do. And then I figure out how, like, the skills that he gave me 20 years ago in graphic design and photography and connecting with people and all of those things, and how they all those gifts come to create the thing that he needed me to create.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Livia, I think that there's not one way. I know that sometimes, yeah, it's like a dream is given you. And sometimes I found in my experience and study that God's waiting for you to say, what is your dream? You figure it out, and then it becomes a partnership. And the best example that I can think of with that, or at least a great inspiration to me, was when the Spirit spoke to Nephi and he asked him two questions. One, what desirest thou? And in that I heard, look, out of everything there is, out of all the desires that could fill the earth, do you know what it is you desire most? And Nephi knew with precision what he wanted and said, yeah, I want to see what Dad saw. And then he asked him the second question, do you believe? I believe. It's when the angel clapped his hands and said, all right, let's get busy. So yeah. I think it's both. I think we need to be careful not to try to impress upon anyone that this is the way that God imposes dreams upon us, or that it's just whatever you want, that it really is tailored to the individual. And there's some sort of balance in there between, okay, your desires and maybe missions that either God gave you or you accepted before we even came to earth.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. And I love that, because maybe what I said didn't come out across, but I love how you clarified that. In that, I feel like, he gave me the Consecrated Life Project, but he didn't say you have to. He's like, you could. Here's the thing, like, look at what good could come out of this. And then it just kind of grew as I got more ideas. I'm like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. But in that, like you say, you have the dream that you hold on to. If I think about, like, what do I desire the most right now? It's to be with my kids and to nurture and to care with them and to help them in this stage, at the same time doing my mission work of what, I feel in my heart I desire to do. And so it's like, no, I don't want to travel all around the world right now. I
Yeah.
want to be here. I want to go to the high school and watch my kids celebrate all the good that they're doing. And so in that, like, even the things that I say, I don't have a date on them yet because I feel like I'm not supposed to, because the thing I desire most is what I'm living step by step, day by day. And like you were saying, lots of times your dreams aren't paying you millions of dollars, but it's okay, because in your heart you know that that's the path that's right for you, and it's okay. And we can rely on the manna and the day by day and the step by step, and God provides what we need, and I have enough in this moment.
Yeah. And to the beautiful point you mentioned earlier, it's a journey of growth. Like, so that you can become, so you can grow, so you can get the skills, so you can develop and level up in ways you wouldn't have imagined.
And I find that it's beautiful, because if I had looked at myself when I was in like junior high and high school, I was like, give me my computer, I'll design over here, and I'm not talking to you, I'm good. And so like God had to refine me and my heart, and like this desire. I remember being at some conference in California back in like 2014 or something, and they had us like do a drawing. So we had markers and we were drawing out like this vision of what we could see for ourselves in the future, but we were just doing it intuitively, like just do whatever comes out. And I drew a picture of me like speaking at TEDx, and I was like, where did that come from? This was not in my heart. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm excited. When it's right, it'll happen. I'm good.
Yeah.
That I'm okay with it. But then I was like, that just came out of me. Like, I didn't know that was in there. And so it's just kind of cool to see how, as we grow and as we learn, more things open up.
Yes.
As
Way
we
leads to way.
way leads to way. Yes, those guides and those signs and those little things all along the way. Do you have any last nugget of wisdom or anything that you want to let our audience know about?
Sure. My favorite two phrases are: the detour is the path and the open road is home. Just a snippet about each. A lot of times we see the path, we lay out our plans, and then a roadblock hits. Sometimes the roadblocks are to test us, to see how we can bypass it. But sometimes they're there to say, you've got to take the detour around. And on the detour, you end up picking up the gems that you need that you couldn't get right there at the obstacle. And then, second, the open road is home. That's really a lifestyle that too often we think about getting home. We go on vacation. Oh, now I'm going to come home. Um, we go to a family reunion. Oh, now I can go home. But if you make where you are home, you're always home. You don't ever have to feel like you've got to get someplace else. Like, the only place you can be yourself and be comfortable is home. Just make it where you are, wherever that is. Then instead of feeling like you've got to get away, you're fully present.
That is gold. I love that. And I find too that when we really connect to our divine identity, and you feel like you were living on purpose, like you probably didn't feel at home in yourself when you were working your job and feeling like you wanted to be biking. But now
True.
you feel like when your dream and your vision and your heart and your soul all come together, and you're like, you're on purpose doing what you're here to do, and you feel it, like you know it deep inside of you, then I feel like it's coming home to yourself. So if you're home to yourself,
That's
then no
beautiful.
matter where you are is home.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's
Thank you so much.
beautiful.
So much for being with us, Layne. How can people reach out to you if they're like, okay, he's like sparking, getting a fire under me. I want to do my dreams, and I would love
Sure,
to talk with you.
absolutely. Um, my website is wayofthehero.com. They can reach me at guide@wayofthehero.com. I think, and I've got a Calendly link. Like, sign up. There's a complimentary coaching session. We can go through your dream. So I think you'll give that out to people.
Yep. We'll put it under your video. They'll have all the stuff.
Absolutely. Would love it. Love to meet more people and help more dreams, actually bigger dreams, come to life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Layne. We appreciate you very much. And if you have not yet joined the Consecrated Life Project, you can go over to theconsecratedlifeproject.com. You can sign up there. You can sign up for text messages. I'm setting that all up right now where it will actually send you an interview once a week where you'll be able to get those. You can get into the Consecrated Life community where you'll be able to watch and learn and like watch the interviews and then like comment and share with other people your insights as you go through this process, and be able to watch ad-free. So if you're on YouTube, make sure you go to theconsecratedlifeproject.com, sign up so you can watch ad-free and have them on your mobile device where you can watch wherever you are. So thanks for being here, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Livia. Bye.
Bye.